thought maybe Maniac Mansion, Base Wars. I don't know. What do you think, Jordan? What's it gonna be?
I have my ideal scenario, and I have like what I think it might be, which is a little more disappointing, at least for me.
Give me both of those.
Okay, I'll start with the disappointing one first. I think it's going to be Gears of War. I think there's a ton of money behind it. It's a Microsoft thing. They're just making so many different moves with these acquisitions. And it's just a franchise that they've continually tried to build up because it's one of the flagship Xbox titles. That said, I want so badly for this to be God of War because that would be an unbelievable movie. I love that franchise. It's one of my favorites. It would be, if I would say how I really felt, I would get censored. I want that I've been in that situation on the show before, and I'm not going to risk it again.
We have a vote to honor that.
Right. It's forever memorialized on Twitch. God of War, The Rock as Kratos, if it's the original 3, would be so sick. That would just be a fantastic movie.
Okay, I think you might be onto something. Look, Gears of War. I think considering I think that this is affiliated in some way with Microsoft. I think it could be a possibility. Halo maybe is what he's talking about, but God of War has been out for a long time. That's certainly a possibility. And look, I've only played the most recent one, but it was good, and I think it would transition to a movie pretty well. Honestly, you get a good kid actor in there.
Have you not played the original 3?
No, just the most recent one. I only know him as Grizzled Daddy. That's all I know.
You got to play the original 3, especially 2 and 3. They're phenomenal.
Okay, I'm gonna have to find if I have a platform that they are actually available on, but that I will definitely consider it. Look, beyond that, I've always thought that GoldenEye would do well on the big screen. I think that they should look into that. Maybe Smash Brothers. It would be 2D, but let's do it. Let's make that happen anyway.
I have good news about GoldenEye for you, John.
What? What? Anyway, yes, and so we'll see. I mean, all of those past movies have not necessarily done all that well. The Jumanji ones are big hits, but that's about it. Maybe he's going back to Doom. Maybe he's doing another Doom. I don't know. People are guessing Fortnite. I don't think it's gonna be Fortnite. I don't think it is.
Microsoft Solitaire still on the board. That's my bet.
It's true. Frogger. I could just see him slowly moving across the street. Let's have that happen. Anyway, I wish we had 10 more minutes to talk about this, but Jordan, that is gonna be all the time that we have. Thank you as always for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Always glad to. Anyway, the next deep dive is literally just gonna be a deep dive into choosing the game. Legend of Zelda. Anyway, maybe Pac-Man. He does eat a lot of fish. Anyway, with that said, everybody, thank you for joining us. Indisputable is coming up next, so you're not gonna wanna miss that. And let's see. I'm also gonna be joining Anna Kasparian for the second hour of the Young Turks. So lots of exciting stuff to look forward to. But until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.
What's happening? Welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey, going to be with you. We got a whole lot of show today. Breaking down news of the day, law and crime legal analyst, attorney at law, Dina Doll. And joining me in the bullpen, my debate segment, we have Josiah Lippincott, Marine Corps veteran, American greatness, columnist, PhD student at Hillsdale College. We're going to chop it up about social media censorship. I guess that's a good place to start since his Twitter account has been suspended. All right, should be fun. Top story of the day. This is an update, ladies and gentlemen. Remember the cop who ran over a suspect, damn near killing the suspect? Well, that same cop actually killed a teenager last year. Let me remind you of the footage of the SUV incident. Here it is. That looked accidental to you? That was intentional, clearly. Let's put up a picture of the officer, Jonathan Granado. Let's put his picture up. Okay, keep his picture up for just a hot second. You see, they were playing hide the pickle until we did this story. Now they've released the picture of the officer involved. But this officer also killed a teenager. Let me give you some background. He is now a former Lake Worth officer who was sued Monday and accused of using excessive force in 2020. The arrest also, in a 2020 arrest, also fatally shooting a teen in Fort Worth in 2021. That's according to the police chief. Lake Worth police chief said at a news conference Tuesday that former officer Jonathan Granado was suspended for 2 weeks and put on administrative duty during an investigation after he hit a fleeing suspect with a police vehicle back in November of 2020. Let's put up a picture of Mr. Dustin Bates. That's Mr. Bates. That's the man he hit with his SUV. The suspect, Mr. Bates, was seriously injured, ladies and gentlemen. Bates was charged with evading arrest and drug possession, but those charges were completely dismissed due to prosecutorial discretion in August. The police chief said an independent investigation indicated the crash was an accident. Oh, there's no intention here. And the grand jury declined to indict the officer. Granado was required, now get this, to undergo additional training and present to his peers what he learned from the incident and that he could do better before he returned to active duty. I mean, that'll do it. Yes, go to additional training and go back to police officers you work with and say, guys, I've learned my lesson. I almost killed a man. And I tried to. Now I want you to think about this. Dustin Bates, he survived, had a broken leg, he had broken ribs, but he lived, right? Initially, the police department, they came out and said that he broke his leg when he got off the motorcycle, that he broke his ribs when he got off the motorcycle. The man that you see running for his dear life doesn't look like he has a damn broken leg and broken ribs. But that was the cover up initially. Cover up always speaks to corruption. You cannot engage in even the beginning of a cover up without someone creating an atmosphere for it to happen. But the video came out and the video went viral. Now, Lake Worth police suspended Granado for 2 weeks for violating department policies related to the safe operation of a vehicle. The police chief said in March, a Tarrant County grand jury declined to indict the officer in connection with the crash. In another incident, this same cop, put his picture up again. This same police officer fired at an 18-year-old and killed that 18-year-old kid, according to the chief of police. Fort Worth police investigated the shooting as an independent third party. Independent third party. You guys are basically the same, all right? The official report notes that one of the fleeing suspects was in fact armed, okay? Back to the lawsuit. Bates, the man who was hit by the SUV and almost killed, said he was riding a motorcycle on November 23rd, 2020. This was in Lake Worth when Officer Granado pulled in behind him and radioed that he could not see Bates' license plate. That's according to court documents. Seconds later, the officer gave the license plate's number to dispatch, and authorities determined it did not match the motorcycle Bates was driving, according to the lawsuit. The police chief later determined the motorcycle was not stolen. So initially, they are pursuing this as a stolen vehicle. Whatever happened in that dispatch said this tag does not belong to this motorcycle. But they assumed, based on that information, that this was a stolen vehicle. It was not stolen whatsoever. Once again, the young man was mowed down and he could have died. Now, I wonder if death would have happened. And this is why I'm so glad I have Attorney Doll on the show. If Mr. Bates would have died, which by the way could have easily happened. This was an SUV running over a human being. He could have easily died. If he would have died, do you think the result would have been the same with the police agency giving this man a 2-week suspension and saying that he has to basically go in front of the classroom and tell them what he did?
I don't think so, because there is more outcry from the community when there is a death. And so they probably would do more than the 2 weeks. Whether or not he would have been criminally charged, that's unclear, because they didn't, the grand jury decided not to criminally charge him here, even though this could have been considered an assault or attempted killing. So that's unclear, but definitely more than a 2-week suspension.
Yeah, and it's interesting because now he's no longer a police officer. But as I say all the time, even though there's no criminal prosecution, I think it should have been. I think he should have been charged with trying to mow down the civilian. Even though the charges were dropped and there's no criminal prosecution of the cops, this is going to end up costing them money. One, I do think he wins the lawsuit. But two, the city has to pay money to defend it or settle it no matter what. This is going to cost taxpayer dollars, right?
Absolutely. And your point about it not being an independent investigation, that's exactly what I thought when I saw this story. A lot of times corporations, when they get in trouble, they'll hire a law firm as an independent review process because they're independent and it's a law firm and they have their own liability to be thorough about it. So to have an internal investigation, I'm not sure exactly the makeup of the city's internal investigation, but there should be this sense that there is true accountability. We've talked about this on the show over and over and over. Police officers often reveal who they are in smaller actions, and this happens. It's usually that one same police officer will end up having a escalating consequences. Yeah. If they caught it sooner, somebody's life could have been saved.
Well said. All right, now damn it, this has got to stop. I'm talking about police on police crime. All right, I'm standing up against police on police crime. Let me bring your attention to a cop who was bullied by his supervisor, who's a cop, has now settled for $120,000. A former police officer in Bergen County, a borough of New Jersey, who claimed he was bullied by a bad lieutenant, has now got a whole bunch of money. In the suit, this officer claimed that his superior had attacked him with chopsticks and choked him with a necktie. Officer Samuel Kim, who is now employed by the Hohokus Police Department, alleged that Lieutenant Sean Lee had harassed him and bullied him from the time Kim was hired in Palisades Park. Let's put up a picture of the victim, Samuel Kim. Okay. Now the person who bullied him is Sean Lee. a lieutenant who is now a captain. He got a promotion after this. Let's put up his picture. Look at that. In his lawsuit filed in July with the US District Court in New Jersey, Kim alleged that guy, Officer Lee, had him run personal errands while on duty, including buying him coffee and driving his daughter to school every morning. The alleged bullying peaked in 2018 when Kim refused a request from Lee to help remove a ticket issued by a New York City police officer, issued to a New York City police officer, according to the suit. After that incident, after this guy stands up, says no to this request, after this happened, Kim said the harassment and bullying became increasingly worse, culminating in 2019 when the two were in the locker room and Lee said an exceedingly offensive and derogatory term in Korean. After that incident, Lee ordered Kim to meet him at his parents' house. While there, Kim said Lee physically assaulted him, first by repeatedly hitting him over the head with chopsticks, then by wrapping Kim's uniform around his neck to choke him, according to the lawsuit. Officer Kim did report the alleged assault to a councilman the next day and said he was scared for his life. Afterward, what happened to the cop that harassed him, that committed a criminal act against him? Well, that officer had a 5-day unpaid suspension and was ordered to attend anger management classes, attend harassment training, and undergo a psychological evaluation for fitness of duty, okay? Now, I want to remind you, these are police officers held to a higher standard of accountability, or at least they should be, right? These are people that we trust not only with tax dollars, but with a damn gun and a badge, which gives them the privilege to use it. But they can commit criminal acts at the workplace and absolutely nothing criminal will happen, all right? What happened? Lee, that same officer, was later promoted to captain. That'll show him. He was promoted to captain and has served as the police department's officer in charge. Officer in charge since May of 2021. Now, remember, the city settled. They said there's some credibility to this claim. They suspended the officer, meaning there's credibility to the claim. And then they gave the officer a promotion and said, you are going to be officer in charge. That's how you keep them in line. The Bureau settled the claim for $120,000. The settlement states that Kim would not seek any further action or payment from Lee and the Bureau. The Bureau does not admit to any wrongdoing. It said the settlement is to amicably resolve all matters. This was a 3-0 vote. The council had 2 of the 6 council members recuse themselves, and the other decided to abstain because at least half of the board are cowards. Okay, all right. Ms. Doll, criminal offense. They found it to at least be credible to an extent. They suspended the guy and then gave a fat settlement for workplace harassment, but the man doesn't get criminally charged. He literally gets a workplace promotion. Now, I guarantee you this, and I'd never do it, but if I took my producer Jordan and grabbed him by the tie and choked him out, I guarantee you I wouldn't be getting a promotion at TYT. That would never happen. And Jordan, I would never do that to your brother, I love you. But that would never, this is the reason why people don't like the police. Who else in an American workplace, attorney, can do something like that and receive a promotion at their job?
Absolutely. I mean, this is such an abuse of power. And some people might think, him trying to hide a ticket wasn't as meaningful. But it's the small things that we see are often the bigger things we don't see. And the fact that he wasn't just fired is kind of astounding. I mean, if it's similar to an employee working at Trader Joe's, taking a box of, the product off the shelf, that's stealing. That person would get fired. Using your power for your own means with the ticket, to me, is a fireable offense. Thank goodness he spoke up, because it does alert the public to things that are happening. But the fact that they didn't really treat this as seriously as it is, the people in that community should know that that means that the police department it needs more oversight because they did not handle this well.
Yeah, very well said. Very well said. All right, we got more on the other side. Is indisputable. Stick and stay.
I'm back to gaslighting. Did you and I talk about gaslighting on Old School?
Probably.
That boss gaslit all his female employees. People who manipulate others like that make you feel like you're the weirdo. Why won't you punch yourself in the face? What is wrong with you? And you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Why didn't I just punch myself in the face and poke my eye out? I'm 47 and I just figured it out like earlier this year.
You figured out somebody was doing it to you or that you were
that it was that it would have been happening my whole life and I didn't realize it.
Right.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? The white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it though.
Do all of you know the Young Turks?
An outlet like yourself that's willing to cover this story from the very beginning.
You have the Young Turks and a bunch of other progressive forces saying this is the time to fight for our values.
And I think right now there are a lot of progressive voters, many leftists who feel like they don't have a home.
And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important.
What we've done is sustainable, slow, healthy growth. And I think that's the way news should be, where you don't rely on sensationalist stuff. You don't lean on whatever's trendy in the news at any given moment. You just go with the truth.
You gave me a platform.
You've uplifted so many other progressive voices through this network, and you're constantly looking for people that you can amplify through the work we do, through the infrastructure that you built at TYT.
It takes those early people who believe that can really be the seeds of this movement, and that has been the Young Turks.
We're super serious about the news. We also managed to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We're not TYT, you're TYT.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one.
Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
All right, welcome back. We still got a lot of show left. let me get to some of these comments. Before I do that, let me remind everyone of the watch list. The big homie JR Jackson is live weekdays at 12 p.m. Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Find out what stories you should be paying attention to in news, politics, culture, current events, sports, and more. This is a 10-week test series on TYT. Make sure to support JR by watching live daily, and don't forget to subscribe and follow at youtube.com/watchlistTYT and facebook.com/watchlistTYT. We are so excited also about our dear sister, Nina Turner, running for the US Congress. All right, we support her 100%. Senator Turner launched a new campaign for Congress earlier today. She will be speaking with Cenk today at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. On the conversation, you don't want to miss that. A lot of nuggets, all right? Also, Aspiration, our TYT audience, you all have made an impact, all right? TYT Aspiration users have offset 28.5 million miles. And since 2020, TYT Aspiration users have planted 528,078 trees, a whole lot. You can sign up, be part of that change machine right now. Aspiration.com/TYT. And don't forget about impact, all right? Positive change in the world is the foundation to what we do here at TYT. We are approaching 20 years. I hope you all can take the time to visit TYT.com/impacts and see what we've achieved with your help over the past few years. Some of the impact you will see includes the petition to increase the minimum wage, giving a platform to leaders like AOC and others, the progressive economic pledge, and a whole lot more, all right? Okay, good comments here. Shikata Ganai Beer Dragon, WTF, Asian or Asian cop crime, ? Wow, that blows my mind. So being a ranking cop makes you forget your own heritage? Mickey C, the Silverhat Dragon, how much time did that officer serve in jail for assault? Oh, wait. Yep. Audrey Davis, always those who think they can gain points by joining the oppressors. Yeah. Benevolent Goddess, see, anger management worked so well, he became a captain. Yeah. Okay. There's a guy literally training people on how to overthrow their local government. He's a former FBI agent. Here's the video.
So what understanding the threat does is we have what I call the starting block. It's our 3-day training program. And we used to focus at the national level, and we realized that was a waste of time. And we brought it down to the state level, and while we met some good governors and attorney generals, none of them were willing to do what needed to be done. And when we brought it down to sheriffs and pastors, thinking we'll get to that local level, we couldn't find enough sheriffs and pastors courageous enough to actually do anything about that. Yeah. So when I first moved to Texas about 5 years ago, I started developing a program for citizens. And when we started teaching it about 4 years ago and actually training them on how to identify these folks in the community and then showing them how to take actions to rip these people out of the community and punt them out of their county or state and do it lawfully but very aggressively. These people have to be flushed. Yeah. And these are bad people. To take back your city council, to throw your mayor in jail if you're capable, to take back your schools, your chamber of commerce, your local community, and then we help them organize their team, show them how to do this stuff at the local level, and then show them how to research the organizations and individuals that are in the community, and then show them very creative, devious, fun ways to flush these people and to screw with them and to make them incapable of continuing what they're doing in the local community.
Damn, it only takes 3 days to learn this? He sells a 3-day package, that's your starter kit. So let's call that the Steve Bannon starter kit, okay? All right, the Supreme package is the Donald Trump, David Duke kit or something like that. So anyway, so this guy goes around, he's a former FBI agent. He literally tells people, here's how you overthrow your government, arrest your mayor, arrest your city council members, school board members. And then he has a training module that shows individuals how to just mess with politicians. Now he says you can do all of this lawfully. If you arrest the mayor of your city, you are a citizen, and you arrest the mayor of your city, well, that's called kidnapping. That is against the law. You're not able to do that. Now, this is what this man is selling, COVID-19 and QAnon conspiracy theorists. They gathered at a Reawaken American event in Dallas, Texas. This was back in December. The man you just watched among the speakers is a radical right-wing activist known as John Guandolo. John is a disgraced former FBI agent, a radical right-wing conspiracy theorist, an anti-Islam activist who now runs an organization called Understanding the Threat, through which he trains law enforcement agencies around the country to identify seemingly anyone with dark skin and a beard as an Islamic terrorist. Now, here's what's interesting. You just literally heard one of his programs, right? I guarantee you, if that would have been an individual of the Muslim faith, or let's say a black person going around saying, no, I'm training citizens on how to lock up politicians. I try to do it at the federal level, try to do it at the state, but we're teaching people how to literally grab up a politician and kick them out of their city or county. That would be a problem. That would be a criminal problem. That would be a criminal investigation. All right, once again, this guy's a former FBI agent. Further background, following his presentation at Reawaken America, this former agent sat down backstage for an interview with Dave Scarlett and self-declared prophet Amanda Grace of the program His Glory, where he realized that he has recently begun offering training sessions for average citizens on how to take over their towns by driving out all the insufficiently right-wing officials and arresting their mayors in the process. There's another video. Here's his inside mind thinking outside. Here it is.
When you do those two things, flush the bad guys, reestablish an actual Republican form of government, then you reestablish the county. When counties do that, and then you get adjacent counties to join you, now you have a pretty incredible stronghold in a state to start going after the cowards and the traitors at the state level. But it has to be at that level.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel a lot of patriots are wasting a lot of valuable time. The enemies, Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham and John Boehner and those people and Mitt Romney and George W. Bush are as big an enemy as the Communist Party is. Yeah. Because they're either doing nothing, which is bad, or like most of them, they're actually aiding and abetting these movements by regurgitating the narratives of those movements, like America's systemically racist. Yeah. Climate change is the greatest threat to the republic. I mean, this, first of all, not true, yeah. But that has a devastating effect strategically.
This guy isn't even on the no-fly list. All right, attorney, what are your thoughts about this fella?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a domestic terrorist, and I really hope that the one shining light here is he's saying this in public so they can follow him and follow all these trainees, because domestic terrorism has always existed. There's always been extremism, but it was a small pocket. It was very much on the fringe. Now we know this is becoming mainstream, and these should be taken seriously. This man is very serious about his threat, and so are the people he's going to be training.
Yeah, well said. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday?
You're still free. Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
I'm telling you right now, I'm ready to explode.
I'm going to write this up.
Because right now, I can make a fist with no problem. I've broke many people's arms, and I'm because it's his fault. He's the one that crossed over in front of me.
Well, don't break arms right now, because I got to get this written up, okay?
Put the camera away.
This is gonna look awesome on YouTube.
I'll tell you right now, mister, that freaking shows up on YouTube, I will find you. And yes, it's a threat. Tell him to shut the camera off.
Hey, hold on, man.
On a SWAT officer, tell him to shut the camera off
my law, I can't.
Honest to God, this shows up on YouTube. Robinson Township, I'm coming after, and I'm coming
Sue me
after
for
you.
what? I suggest you get in your vehicle, sit on.
Don't touch me.
Ma'am.
Get off.
Don't
Shut
touch
it
me.
off.
Don't
Shut
touch
it
me.
off now.
Go sit in your vehicle.
I do not like my picture taken.
Ma'am, listen to me. Sit in your vehicle.
Tell him to shut it off now.
Go sit in your vehicle or he can't take you, okay? Go sit in your vehicle.
I do not want this on YouTube. I don't want to. Tell him to shut it off now.
But shut the camera off.
Shut it off now.
Okay, it's off.
Get in your
Shut it
vehicle,
off
okay?
now.
It's off. Shut it off.
Put the goddamn thing in your car now.
Listen.
No.
Get in your vehicle or I'm going to arrest you for creating a disturbance, okay? Do you understand me? Sit down. Let me write this up. We'll get everybody underway.
He's taping me again.
Ma'am.
He's taping me again. I do not like that stuff. I do not like that stuff.
In your vehicle.
Sir, I don't like that stuff. I hate that stuff.
Terroristic threat, disorderly conduct, failure to obey a lawful command. Maybe I missed a charge or two that she was able to avoid in this back and forth. The irony, outside of the fact she was not arrested, and I mean every benefit and privilege was granted to her, the irony on top of the irony is this. The officer ended up taking her side and saying, cut the video off. Cut the video off, law-abiding citizen who has a legal right to record. Cut it off, because Karen demands it. This does show that police officers are able to be patient. They're able to be, really flexible in how they apply their lawful command rule. She received many lawful commands. And then after threatening the man, the person recording, she then looks at the cop and says, yeah, that's a threat. The cop does nothing, allows her to continue to approach him, to approach the person recording. He had to record for his own safety because obviously Deputy Fife was doing nothing, all right? Okay, attorney at law, am I wrong on the potential criminal charges that could have been levied against this woman?
I don't think you're wrong. I do think that you're right in terms of her privilege. It did seem like the police officer was, going with her, trying to kind of manage the situation. He did show an extreme amount of patience. I think the lesson here for me was just, we can't control other people. If we don't want something to happen, sometimes the action is our own action, and she should have just gotten inside the car because obviously she got taped more the more she yelled at him.
Yeah, and she looked more ridiculous. Okay, I got something for you. Double dose.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off! I'm in trouble. There's an African-American man threatening my life.
You understand this? Move the car.
Who are you gonna show? The president? Who are you gonna show? Who are you gonna show?
You got an ugly lip. Your lip ugly, your lip spoiled, bitch. Suck your mother. Ugly. Go move that piece of You're gonna wait, you bitch.
And you're recording me, you piece of
Suck your mama! Girl! Suck your mama! Look for your lip! I'm a slave! I'm a slave! Suck your mother! You ever see this blood clot? Your lip! See a big girl! Your lip spoil! Bumbuck, I go suck your mother!
That Jamaican thing hit different, don't it? I'm not saying he was right for calling her out a name. All right, I'm not saying any of that. But woo, Karen ran up on the wrong Jamaican brother trying to get through his work day on that occasion. Now, I was adopted by a Jamaican family, love them to life. Shout out to Mommy, Everton, Owen, and Sam. And it was a remarkable experience to be in that kind of family environment. As a foster child, I was looking for a home, right? A place where heart is. And I gotta say this, my Jamaican family, they have hearts. They have remarkable hearts, all right? They have a lot of passion. And Karen ran up on that passion that day. Attorney at law, what are your thoughts?
Road rage is real. People's anger about the divisiveness of our country is coming out. I've been following the Edgecombe case, and that's really gone wrong. 2 people's lives, really never going to be the same. The defendant and the man who died. So although I'm very glad that he was able to stand up for himself, I don't know, people are kind of crazy these days. I kind of feel like it's just, you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, all right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
Our audience has given us everything, so we couldn't be more connected. When we first started, people would start giving us directions and say, okay, the mics are too large, move them. Turn them into lav mics. I mean, they were incredible. And then one guy walked in and gave us a really expensive switcher and said, you guys need this, and walked out. Okay, it's amazing. They helped us build a studio. They did a $2 million funding campaign for us. And so they really are us. We do this show together to the point where some of our hosts are even former listeners. So when we say that the audience is part of TYT, we really mean it.
I think what the audience also appreciates is especially if they're members, they really get an inside look into who we are, our personal lives, what drives and motivates us. It goes beyond just storytelling. I think that what we do is allow our viewers and our listeners into our daily lives, and we give them kind of like this inside look into everything that we're passionate about and why it is that we're doing what we're doing, right? Like the motivation behind what we're doing, I think, is important for our audience to know, and we're not shy about sharing that with them. And it's different from what people typically see in legacy media outlets where everything is kind of dry and robotic and there's really no personality or authenticity that comes along with it. Oftentimes when we're doing the show, I don't really think of it as me telling them stories. I think of it as us having a mutual respect and conversation with one another. And as I said earlier, I mean, not only do I feel that through the work I do, I'm informing our audience, but they inform me oftentimes as well. They'll pitch stories to us. They'll tell us, a certain perspective or angle to a story that we might have missed. And I love it.
Our TYT audience has been building this show and this network with us for 20 years. Now we're expanding and connecting our audience around the world in even more exciting and powerful ways. Look, I don't want you to miss another petition, poll, community conversation, or TYT segment. Connect with informed, passionate, and compassionate progressives, and even new progressives. They're joining our movement every day. This is gonna be amazing when we work together. So our community members are learning together, they're building lifelong relationships, and even politically organizing together. Here's what Power Slave Wolf has to say as they begin interacting with our community after making TYT their #1 trusted news source. Quote, I've been a TYT viewer since the Obama years and have since found them to be a far more trustworthy news source than most TV news outlets. Away from viewing TYT, I'm a musician, electric bass guitar, sim racer, satire enthusiast, and rollerblader, the latter being my main means of intense exercise. TYT, my local news, none of the stations in my area are Sinclair owned as far as I know, and comedy style news shows are my trusted news sources. The former and the latter both having something in common in that both have something that TV news sorely lacks, a very low tolerance for BS. So sign up for free at tyt.com/community. We're making it easier to connect, stay informed, and even take action.
Hi, I'm Bartholomew Joseph Kyle. I do audio for the main show, The Young Turks. I also do audio for Post Game. I started in 2006. I met Cenk Uygur at the Iraq for Sale screening that was directed by Robert Greenwald. And watching that, I want to figure out a way to be part of something that's genuine and authentic.
All right, I'm looking forward to reading these comments. Okay, all right, so let me get to some of these comments. I cannot read all of them. We'll read as many as I can. Colorado Blue Blazer Regular says, a former FBI agent, ? At least we know that the FBI will cut him off from all benefits and contacts in the government. Yeah, and I have a seaside property in Colorado to sell you. I mean, they may work with this damn 3-day training program. Who knows? They may be invited speakers or something. Crazy things have happened, right? But Tracy, these people are straight up fascist. The architect, a weekend treason course? No, not a weekend, sir. 3-day weekend treason course. Okay, 3 days. This is serious stuff. And I think you get like a certificate at the end of the training. All right. V says, I knew a bumper clot was coming out. I knew it too. I knew it was happening. It was gonna happen. Shikata Ganai Beer Dragon says, suck your mother is my new mantra. Once again, a phraseology adopted from our brothers on the island. All right. Bernie the Kiwi Dragon, overthrow lawfully. That's what the former FBI agent said. Okay. Cassandra says, yes, Karen, fear the phone camera. Mike V, very thoughtful. Karens and law enforcement overseers are both class collaborators against oppressed people in this country for liberation. All right, okay. This is an update, okay? Remember the 16-year-old child who was playing basketball and being taunted by others in the stands, being called a gorilla. They were making 8 noises. Let me remind you, here's the video.
Number 3. You suck! Number 3's a gorilla, bitch! Number 3, you're a bitch!
Now the father is speaking out, okay? So let me update you on this story. The father, whose name is Kayi Steplight. Kayi Steplight's son is a River Ridge High School student in Lacey, Washington, according to King 5. The school's basketball team was playing Capital High School in Olympia, Washington on January 14th. When Steplight says a student yelled gorilla at his son. This has to be taken on full head, Steplight said regarding the incident. The disturbing occurrence was captured on video and immediately shared on social media. It shows a student yelling out gorilla. Meanwhile, other students at Capitol can be heard making 8 noises at the 16-year-old Amari, 16-year-old child. Although a student reportedly posted the video, Steplight said he did not see the video until after the game. He tagged Amari in the video because they wanted him to see what they were saying about him, Steplight said. His son eventually showed him the video. I've been called monkeys and gorillas. I've been called a lot of different names. So it was like deja vu. And I was frustrated that my son had to deal with that. That's what the father said. Now let me pause on this moment. This is not only surreal because I've been called these things. It's not only surreal because my father was called those things, but my father's father's father was called those things. And when we talk about progress in the United States of America, I'm going to highlight a dynamic of this story that has not been reported fairly, has not been highlighted enough, okay? In an online statement, the Olympia School District Superintendent, Patrick Murphy, said that the incident was investigated, discipline took place, the student heard yelling, the racial slur was not identified, but trust us, they did something about it. Now, let me put a picture up of this very concerned father, okay? This is the father, all right? He's willing to be the face of this story because he wants the school system to know who he is, and he wants them to know he's not letting this go. This is not going to be an everyday occurrence, okay? The school superintendent said also in a statement, "It is incumbent upon me to work with our school leaders and staff to ensure that when student actions cause harm, there is accountability, learning, and an opportunity to restore and make amends with those who have been hurt." That's what the statement said in part. So let me highlight some dynamics here that are important. Number one, to the superintendent, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And so I hope this video gets to your email or inbox or something. Somebody tags you. Because in your statement, number one, you should have never released a statement online. You should have hopped your ass on a microphone in front of cameras and said very specifically what will not be tolerated in your district. But no, you told somebody to write up an online statement, post it on the school website, and that's it. That's what you did. First failure. Second, I didn't hear you talk about the culture of your institution. Because during this taunting, this racism at a school event, did one of your referees that works directly for your school system stop it and kick those audience members out? No. Did one of your coaches go to the ref or go to that group and say, "Get the hell out of here with that"? No. All of the faculty members and administrators who were at the game, who heard this happening the entire game, did one of them say a damn word to this group of racist teenagers and others to protect the child on the court? Did anybody say anything to any one of them? No. Did a parent say something? No. Did other students say anything? No. You have a cultural issue here, superintendent. The fact that not one person in a crowded basketball game said one word to these students, and they were doing this to this young man the entire damn game. And big ups to this 16-year-old who continued to play basketball. Did not allow them to take him off focus, but he shouldn't have to go through this, right? The superintendent, his statement wholly inappropriate for the situation. You have a systemic failure, not only in your own leadership, but in the culture of your school district. That's why things like this permeate. Dina Doll, do you see it differently?
I agree completely. And if he had been 18 and at a job and this happened, this would be a hostile work environment, and he could sue and he could win. And the problem is in our country, students face harassment, whether it's sexual, racial, and they are stuck in their schools. And thank goodness this parent was willing to speak up. But that kid still had to go to school. He had to show up because he wants his college. He has to focus when he can't focus. And that's a real harm that isn't being addressed. And absolutely, the school, the district can do more. They know how to do these things. They can have discussions about these issues. They can have field trips. They can have reading requirements. So the statement was all platitudes. It showed that they were not really addressing this as seriously as they should.
Right, and as I say all the time, not every time, but I would dare say 9 times out of 10, racist children, racist parents, all right? Just keep that in mind, you have a cultural issue here. Let me take you to a fascinating dynamic. A Karen caught in the wild and domesticated at the same time. It's a beautiful thing to see. Here's the video.
You're screaming at employees in Walmart. Get out of here.
Not racist.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
The United States doesn't have an official language, jackass.
I am this close to calling the cops. This close.
I'm sorry. Just like, it would even be fun if you were involved in the video. Like,
are you kidding me? Involved? Like how?
Like you.
3, 2, 1. Oh gosh, doing this with my neighbor now. Oh God. Oh, that's a lot. Oh, run. This is a lot. That's a lot. Oh. Guys, don't try this. Do not try this.
This is making the rounds on social media. Some people are debating, is it real? Was it fake? I don't know. I like the sentiment of the story. He was able to find a Karen in the wild, and he was able to domesticate that Karen in real time through niceties, right? We're going to start giving Karens an opportunity to redeem themselves on this show. So if you know of a Karen out there who has some viral video connected to their Karenicity, and they would like an opportunity at redemption, you tell them to give us a holler right here on Indisputable, all right? Anti-Karens come in many, many different ways. This was one of the most unique anti-Karens I've seen. Ms. Doll, what are your thoughts about the story?
I love this story too. And I think all of our story today, in some respect, had one person treating the other person less than, right? Whether or not it was about the police or if it was about the Karens or anything like that. If we can just find commonality with each other and try to have our hearts talk to each other instead of our pain talk to each other, maybe we can all get along a little bit more.
You know, that sounds very wise of you. Let me put up a picture of the TikToker. His name is JoJo the Jet Plane. That's what he goes by on TikTok. He now involves that same neighbor in many videos now. So this has become a thing for them now. Big ups to him. All right, way to go, young man. Okay, very, very exciting news. Our dear sister Nina Turner is running for the United States Congress. Here's the video that came out.
America is at a crossroads, wrestling between two futures. Do we sacrifice the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class to protect the ultra wealthy? Or do we treat our people as America's greatest asset and ensure everyone has a real chance to live a good life? Families are struggling with higher gas and food prices, stagnant wages, and shrinking benefits, while corporations make record profits. These are unprecedented times. Our leaders can't settle for just enough. They must fight for what we deserve. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress because we deserve a voice for change in Washington. A leader who is on the side of the people, not out for the powerful or out for themselves. A leader who understands that healthcare has been denied to millions of Americans for far too long and will fight for Medicare for all. A leader who knows poverty is a policy choice and the minimum wage must be raised to a living wage. Who won't take a dime from special interest PACs or do their bidding. You deserve a leader who is from here, who knows what it's like to grow up and live their life in this community, who has stood up for reproductive justice and served on the front lines of the fight for criminal justice reform and voting rights, not for days, but for decades. A member of Congress that stands shoulder to shoulder with leaders like Bernie Sanders, unapologetically to fight for working people and speak truth to power. And here's the truth. Greater Cleveland needs a change maker, not someone who just go along to get along. We can put an agenda through Congress that puts working families first, and that's worth fighting for. Something you can feel. Good union jobs, expanded health care, child care, and climate justice. Winning the battle against Republicans and the holdouts in our party will only happen when we put it all on the line for everyday people. An America as good as this promise is worth fighting for. Our children are worth fighting for. Our future is worth fighting for.
Damn. I love it. So proud of our dear sister. Obviously, I'm supporting her 100%. So let me bring up some reality about politics. We are so indoctrinated to believe that politicians have to play a particular corporate game in order to be effective, in order to get elected. That is not true. They want you to believe that. The truth is, it still comes down to your power, the power of the people. One person, one vote still rules the day. Now, there's a lot of trickery involved in getting that one vote, but you can see through it, you can power through it. Here's what I want us all to do. Remember what we're voting for. We're really not voting for people, we're voting for policy. Policy is a contract between the community and the government, between you and the government you pay. Who's delivering a better policy package? Don't get caught up in personalities. Always get caught up in the policy. That's the game of politics. Who's delivering the policy that you support, right? It's called values. What are your values? You align your values to the people that promote the policies you connect with. That's how this works, all right? We wish our sister well in her continued campaign for progress, and she continues to be a champion for everyday people. Remember, millionaires made an increase of 20% during this COVID-19, where regular folk, we out here, still struggling, making ends meet. Millionaires got a 20% boost. Billionaires got a 30 to 40% boost. And some of the most popular billionaires increase their earnings by over 600%. All right, attorney, thoughts?
Well, congratulations. She seems like she'd be an amazing addition to Congress. We need more women. We're vastly underrepresented. And I love her policies too. The living wage. Nobody in America should have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to be able to support their family. So good for her. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Well said. All right, attorney, tell people how they can connect with you and follow your great work.
I'm on Twitter, Dina Doll 1. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. All right. We got more on the other side. The bullpen is next. Stick and stay.
Old school's pitched to me from Jank. It'll just be me, you, Jesus, Ben, and maybe Michael. And we're like, okay, cool. I can do that every week. As you can see, me, Jesus, Ben.
When you make the order, it says, don't exceed $20.01. So I'll just order literally anything to get it as close to that as I possibly can.
I'm sorry that I ordered $45 worth of food and got an email saying, sir, would you like to rethink that? What are you talking about?
I was in hell. I was just like, oh my God, the theater's empty, nobody's here. Everyone on screen keeps fucking cursing. Why did I let this happen? And the whole thing looks like it was shot through a glass of milk. My mom's gonna be so mad.
If you're looking for a heart attack, the short way, baby.
Wrong. I did put mayonnaise on it. I'm the most in shape, overweight person you'll find.
That's right.
He was like, why didn't you answer my call? I called you 39 times.
Yuck. But what makes you stop right before 40? What makes you say, nah, man, I ain't doing that no more. I'm cool.
And I called you back on the air. And I was like, okay, Kevin Smith, big shot. What the you said you'd come on and you didn't come on.
I'm sure I took that very well.
Yeah, you did. You called me back the next day and said, I thought it was 7 a.m. There's now deep fake porn. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
Heard of it? I just had some in the car.
I'll tell you who I'm not Ben Mankiewicz. Have you guys ever felt that?
Not ever.
And now it's just the 3 of us.
This is the intimate hour.
By the way, the last half hour of this, we're not even rolling.
Fair enough.
Hey, man.
Easily.
See, I watch movies.
I'm down with both of you.
Once Greg starts laughing, I can't stop. And I was just gonna ask you about getting high.
Snoogans, Snoochie Boochies, and members, of course, you can get the whole damn thing. TYT.com, join and free trial. I'm old school with the old folks.
Good.
John, come back.
Field goal here. It's time to switch to beer.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
Do your best.
He's a little like...
Oh. No one's happy now.
Give him another try.
Oh. Wow.
This is the weirdest game.
I'm Brett. I would like to refer to this segment as the Do I Still Have This Talent show. So I want to see if I can play harmonica without my hands. I don't know why I have that. Nothing's gonna be more impressive than that. I can also spin a basketball on my finger. While drinking? While drinking. I'm gonna spin a basketball on my finger while drinking apple juice. You can do this, dude. It's also flat. I don't know if that helps or hurts. And it seems to be somewhat wobbly. Ta-da! Nope, I don't know how to do this one. This one's a fail. Nope. Oh God, I'm so mad.
All right, welcome back. We got a lot of comments. Let me get to it. Okay. Shakata Ganai Beer Dragon, words should never be confused with actions. Also, as an ex-jock, why the hell wasn't the crowd given a couple of technicals for unsportsmanlike conduct? Yep, I agree. Narrative Junkie Films, thank you. Iris Blake, not only racist, but misogynist. Someone taught them well, yeah? And that's sarcastic, obviously. Tracy Ravenhawk, tame that Karen, and it's funny, she's behind white bars. Reyes Guerra, Dr. Richie, how about a public announcement that you are willing to host a debate between Nina and Shantel? Oh, I would love to, all right? You know, you put it in the atmosphere, it's out in the universe now. You never know what may come back. All right. Gal 71, love to see Nina Turner and Charles Booker both get elected in November and work together next year in DC. Frost Banana, I got you, Nina. Voted for you last time, I'll do it again. I'm from here, I know. Good stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. Yeah, he's back. We got Josiah Lippincott, Marine Corps veteran, American Greatness columnist, and PhD student at Hillsdale College. We're gonna chop it up about social media platforms and censorship. All right, Josiah, good to have you back on the show. How are you?
Awesome to be here. It's just great to be back.
Good stuff, man. All right, I don't want to presume what you know or believe about it. I did check. Currently, it looks like you're suspended from Twitter at the moment. So I'm sure you got strong feelings about this. So give us your sentiment and I'll respond.
Yeah, so my take on social media censorship is that these big tech corporations are out of control. They are essentially have become arms of the political establishment. The fact that they are so-called private companies is not relevant. They're simply so large and the service they provide is so important to the exercise of free speech that they should not have an unlimited power over what people get to say on their platforms. If especially for these large monopolistic type firms. And so I've been victimized by this system. I made a criticism of the Biden regime and pointing out I think a pretty fundamental problem about the way the country is dividing. And I was banned, because that criticism I think was a pretty sharp one and revealed problems with the Biden administration and that they don't want out there. So their allies in big tech are covering for them. So my argument is that Americans, it should be like your phone company. Your phone company doesn't regulate what you get to say over the phone. And I think for the most part with social media, that should be the case. I mean, barring criminal activity and outright spam, but political opinions need to be out there.
Let me tell you why I call bull on what you just said. There was a recent study done and published about a week and a half ago that showed that roughly 40% of the political narrative that's on social media is actually anti-Joe Biden, okay? Or anti-administration, anti-White House, right? But it's out there and it permeates and none of them people have been banned. In addition to that, were you not warned 3 times before you received an actual ban from the platform?
Well, I received a number of suspensions. One time I suggested that the punishment for child molestation in the United States should be the death penalty. And I believe that. Now I'll argue in favor of that, but Twitter didn't like that I put that out there. And then I had members of the woke military, people I've engaged with, who mass reported my account, essentially using big tech as a political club. But to get to your point, yes, there is plenty of anti-Joe Biden opinionating that's going on in the public sphere. The guy's really unpopular. But I think it's a problem when you have a critic like myself who, I'm not a crazed radical. I'm a scholar, I'm a student. I like to make sharp and incisive commentary. I should be allowed to do that under my own name. And big tech should mostly leave me alone. But
think about what you just said, Josiah. You started your proclamation and provided the premise with you were suspended or banned because you were anti-Joe Biden in your commentary. Well, that's not accurate. It's not because you were anti-Joe Biden. Now you are a studying scholar, right? You are currently a PhD student, correct? All right. Yes. So you know a couple of things about doctoral studies. Number one, you have to precisely define the variables. So let's precisely define the variables. First variable is what was the content. Second variable, was there a continuation or warning system before that particular post got you suspended? And then the next variable is obviously the variable of the public community, because you stated in your assessment of it, people actually reported you, which is part of the algorithm process of social media. And by the way, when you say that this is somehow unlawful, unconstitutional, and maybe not you in particular, but that's what the Trump lawsuit says, that's what other conservatives are saying. Every single one of you literally signed an agreement that says this is a private company. We can regulate obscene behavior. And if we find that you do something out of the lines of our accepted values, we can kick you off the platform. They actually don't, by law, have to give you warning. They do so by courtesy. And then let me go to Rule 230. I'm sure you are familiar with Rule 230, right? So Rule 230 basically says that these platforms cannot be held responsible in most cases. There are exceptions, but in most cases, they cannot be held responsible for the content that's published. In other words, they are not the publishers of the content. So if the content that's published by you or someone else, maybe it's defaming, maybe it creates a criminal element, right? They're not responsible as long as they make good faith efforts to regulate the conduct.
Yeah, let me, if I could respond to that real quick. I mean, the argument that I would make is that, sure, I signed this contract, but really, what is the balance of power between a multi-billion-dollar international corporation
now you're
and one
into
guy?
The legalese, brother.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is
the balance of power. We'll talk about that.
That's right. So the balance of power favors these massive tech conglomerates that have, I think, too much power over free speech. And so the argument I would make is that you should mostly allow people access to the public square. No corporation should be able to just own large swaths of the public square, and monopolize it. That goes against the spirit of liberty, which is to say, if I'm being restrained by the government, it wouldn't be right. But you can't then say, Twitter basically acts like an arm of the government. And if they were engaged in racial discrimination, I think, and let's say the White House was extremely racist and wanted to ban a member of an ethnic minority from free speech, and a so-called private company worked to ban that member of that group, I think a lot of people would understand. Look, at that point, you're not a private company. You're acting like an arm of the regime, and that's what's happening with the Biden administration.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, you believe that censorship should happen on some level with all media platforms, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and what level is that?
Well, I'd say things like child pornography. That's the kind of thing. It's a very clear example of something that should be censored, but that has a legal component, right? The government should crack down on that kind of
outside of a legal component. So I understand that, I get it, but outside of a legal component, do you think that all content should be unregulated if it does not actually violate an existing law?
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to get on social media and call me the N-word, they should not be regulated. I should have to still engage on that same platform, or children should be able to see that there's extreme racism on the social media platform. Racism is not against the law, by the way. So you're telling me that should be allowable on the platform?
Well, I'm gonna make an argument that we live in a world where some people believe and say mean things. And I would rather live in a world where people can say mean things, and then you can argue about that in the public sphere, than a world in which unaccountable, unelected, massive tech corporations get to regulate what people can say. Ultimately, I would say that content that should definitely be illegal is one that would defame your character. If someone were to lie about you to destroy your reputation, I think we should have good libel laws in this country. But people calling each other's names I was out about town today, and I saw some people calling each other, vicious. It wasn't racial epithets, but it was mean language, and that's just part of the world we live in.
What I think you're conflating, Josiah. I think you're conflating your right to say something with your right to say something on a particular platform. I think you're conflating those two, and I want to be extremely authentic in how I present this to you. Right, your right to speech is not absolute in America at all, because there's a way you can use your speech that is in fact criminal, and private corporations can obviously modulate what they accept and your speech in the process of that, because that's how it works. The Constitution only provides that the government cannot really make a law to abridge your freedom of speech. But even with that, the Constitution is clear. If you use your freedom of speech and you use it in an irresponsible way, yell fire in a crowded building, there's no fire, people get harmed, well, you can be charged with a crime. With every right comes a common sense responsibility. So let me take you back to some common sense about this argument.
Sure.
You referenced the public square, okay? And I've heard legal scholars make this argument about basically Twitter and Facebook and other social media platforms are like the public square. And in some areas it does connect. However, here's the reality of the public square. The public square was not privately owned. The public square was owned by the public. That's what made it the public square. And it allowed for individuals to hold shop, to provide conversation, context, content. Social media is not the public square. I don't give a damn how many people use it. It is not owned by the government. If it was owned by the government, you could make that argument, dear brother, and that argument would actually hold significant weight. The other part, let me respond to one other part. You talked about the balance of power.
Right.
The balance of power is a legal contractual term that talks to boilerplate terms in a contractual agreement when a person who is in need of a job, you have to show need and desperation. They're in need of a job. There's an unequal bargaining opportunity here, and one company takes advantage of the small guy. Well, that's not applicable to a user agreement when you don't have to use the agreement. This is not a job. Well, this is not employment. And this is not an opportunity for commerce. This is a platform for ideological exchanges, content creation, et cetera.
Yeah, well, hey, I'll respond to that. I think the first thing is that that content is valuable. When I was on Twitter, I would get millions of hits per month. People wanted to read what I was writing, and Twitter was facilitating that, and they benefit from the ad revenue that brings in. But the deeper point there is that you can't have the public square is where the public is able to meet, and that's I think the easiest definition.
So are we saying now that but that's not what the public square was? We have conveniently left out the fact that the public square was owned by the public when we have these arguments. But are you now saying that Twitter is in fact the public square? Because that means you should be lobbying for Twitter to become the government, something that you seem to be against.
Well, I think what is happening now is that the regime, i.e. the Biden administration, owns Twitter. They essentially own it ideologically. But the people, the average ordinary American, does not have control over this public square, and I think they should, because these social networks benefit from that network.
Now tell me, how would that work? When you say, okay, the public should have control over it, tell me what that looks like.
Yeah, I think the best model is like phone companies. The phone company makes money by selling you a phone, running all these wires. You buy a service, they provide it, but they do not then have power over what the individual user gets to say, or should not have power.
But they do have power. Yes, they do. They do have power.
They listen. Look, if a corporation can listen into your phone calls and record them, that's illegal in a lot of states.
No, that's not my point. The point is that private phone companies, they do have the power to dismiss a customer. If they find that a customer is using their cell phone or using their carrier to harass someone, they can suspend that coverage and cite why they suspended it. They have that authority. They don't use it all the time, obviously, but they do have the authority to do so because they are a private company. You're literally making my point with your argument.
Well, I would say the argument that I'm trying to make is that the you're going to have some restrictions like on spam on social media, for instance. But the argument that I'm making is that in terms of political discussion, the ordinary American should be able to use these text services to make political points, and that if they commit criminal activity, they shouldn't be allowed to. But to your deeper point, America has a long history, even to the American founding, the writers of the Constitution, of basically a common carrier doctrine. So that would mean, look, if you have a right to travel, and we do in America, you can't be denied by a company the right to use their service based off of a political opinion, for instance.
But you don't have a right to travel.
You do have a right to travel.
You don't have a right to travel on an airplane. No, you don't. You don't have a right to travel on an airplane.
Well, now we don't because the state has taken it away.
What makes you think? Do you know what a right is, brother? A right is something codified in the Constitution. What constitutional dynamic, amendment, or article says you have a right to fly on an airplane? Where's that at?
Well, so I mean, what constitutional right is there for you to run a YouTube channel? I think you would argue you have a right to free speech.
You don't have a right to run a YouTube channel.
This is an argument for dictatorship. Come on, Dr.
You have the opportunity and privilege to do so, and if you violate their private standards, you then can be kicked off the platform.
The question I'd ask you, why are you so eager to defend these big tech corporations?
You know what? Let me tell you what I'm defending. I'm not defending big tech corporations. I'm defending common sense. You know what I don't want a world full of? I don't want a world full of racist Trump supporters being able to freely reign on social media where my children and my children's children will have access to that content and see that kind of devilish content on a regular basis. I don't want to see that. Racism has no place on these platforms that we support as black people in the United States of America. We should not have it, and white folks that are woke and forward thinking should not want it there either. Now, in your world, you would be okay with N-word this, monkey that, ate this, and all of this other stuff. You would be okay with that because it's just people calling each other names. Well, it's different for me, brother, and it's different for my families. It's different for the communities that I love. I say they don't deserve to use that platform anymore if they are unwilling to utilize it in an appropriate fashion.
Well, I would say, yeah, you have people saying mean things. What I'm not, I'll tell you about my America. In my America, people threatening, actually committing violence, people murdering one another. That's a problem.
You mean violence like January 6th?
Oh, you mean the one the government committed when they shot that woman as she was trespassing, unarmed.
That was the government. That was the government that committed an act of terrorism on January 6th?
100%. When they shot Ashley Babbitt, that was unconscionable.
I'm asking you specifically because this is going to tell me a lot about you, brother.
Absolutely.
What are you getting your PhD in, by the way?
Political philosophy.
Oh gosh, all right. On January 6th, the people that stormed the Capitol, did they commit a crime?
I mean, I think some people might have, they were parading around. You got some boomers out there throwing some envelopes. I mean, yeah, that's not good, but it's the people's house. You got to let people protest. Why'd they shut down the Capitol for all those months? We should have protests in this country. People got to behave themselves.
I do find it interesting. So in your world, you are okay with people breaking windows, threatening to hang the vice president of the United States, looking for elected leaders to kidnap them, looking for opportunities to hold illegal tribunals against politicians, criminal trespass. You're okay with that? That's okay with you? Wait a minute, brother. Hold on, Josiah.
Okay, keep going.
You're okay with that, but you're not okay with Twitter saying, hey, you know what? You can't use racism. You can't use bigotry. You can't engage in this kind of behavior on social media. You're not okay with that, but you're okay with people terrorizing the United States Capitol.
I'm okay with people protesting and saying
that was not a protest.
I'm okay with people saying mean things. I mean, I think the people who broke windows, and I think there's a strong argument. What I've seen on that is a lot of those people thought they were protesting. They were let into the building. Police officers let them in. That shaman guy with the weird headgear.
What about the police officers running away and getting physically attacked by these terrorist attackers? What about those police officers who were physically attacked? And it was well over 100.
I think there were people who committed. They were fighting and committing violence.
Committed what?
I'd say they're committing. There are people who did things they shouldn't have been doing, and those could have been crimes. But treating this like a terror attack
were they crimes?
Is ridiculous. I mean, yeah, if you can beat up on someone.
All right, so they were crimes. At least
you had the cops. You had the cops throwing smoke grenades, antagonizing the crowd. You gotta let people protest.
They should have shot people, and they did not. That would have been, come on now, think about it. If that would have been black, hold on, brother. That would have been black folk, folks with the last name Muhammad. You know, gun damn well it would have been a bloodbath on that United States Capitol ground. You know that. I know that. Everybody knows that.
Hey, Dr. Ritchie, compared to
answer
the
that
percentage
question.
of.
Do you believe that if it would have been a black mob or members of the Muslim faith storming that US Capitol in the same manner, would they have been shot dead on arrival?
No, and in fact, we probably would have turned it into a national holiday at this point.
Come on, man, it's ridiculous.
This country's gone crazy, and we can't. How can we have peace? You know.
Well, I'm trying to say.
Your argument,
if you're going to take that, people like yourself.
If you're going to take that argument, what you end up with is you get censorship, and you get a country that can't hold together. Ideologically,
censorship is really interesting. 60% of Americans actually agree social media should be able to use the standard application of the First Amendment, privately regulate their own platform. But before you go, we got to do this quick because we got another show.
Sure.
How do you get around Section 230? Section 230, which was passed in the 90s, basically says, listen, these platforms, they're not held responsible for published content for the most part, but in order to keep 230 intact, that's their liability place. In order to keep that intact, they have to use good faith efforts to regulate the platform from indecency.
I'm going to argue.
I
don't care about Section 230 at all. I think I want.
But it's law. What are you talking about? It's a law.
No, laws can be bad. I think we should use the anti-monopoly acts to crush these corporations, break up Twitter, sell it off for parts, and allow Americans to speak freely in public. That's what I believe.
All right. Well, Americans can speak freely in public.
Not me.
But I do not. Yes, you can. You can speak freely, brother. Say whatever you say. If I tell you that you have to leave my show, is that me violating your First Amendment right?
No, because it's your show.
Exactly,
You're one
brother.
guy. You are not a multi-billion-dollar corporation, Dr. Ritchie. But if you were, it would be different.
Twitter is a platform.
That's right. That's why they
if you violate their rules, and first of all, you know good and damn well, Josiah, you are a habitual line crosser. If you keep crossing the line, you're going to be suspended from the account. So you want laws to change, the Constitution to change, just so your ass can get back on Twitter. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. I want the law to be changed because I am a line crosser. I'm saying the right things.
I gotta say this, Josiah.
I'm a truth teller, Dr. Ritchie. What can I say?
I wish I had your confidence, man. I mean, one white man says, damn it, change the Constitution so I can get my ass
I want to just follow the Constitution. I just want to change the law. But I want to follow the law, Dr. Ritchie. All right.
Thank you, Josiah.
Have a good one. Have a great one.
Good luck on your PhD.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
All right, Twitchuation Room is next.
Sorry about the light.